for allegedly employing a neighborhood school plan that hinders diversity within individual schools. With recent redistricting, New Hanover County is enforcing a similar neighborhood school plan under which some schools maintain mostly all-white or all-minority student populations. Parsley Elementary, for example, has a student population that is 97% white and only 3% minority. Question, do you agree that New Hanover County should continue enforcing neighborhood schools defined here as a districting plan that places students in the school nearest their homes? Please explain why you agree or disagree.
Thank you, Bill. We'll start with Mr. Hayes.
Well, to answer your question, yes, I do agree with neighborhood schools. The board 3 years ago enacted a neighborhood school program, a redistricting program on the elementary level. This year, going into effect as a redistricting plan on the middle school level. I agree with a lot of the research that both sides presented in talking about this issue, and I certainly agree with both sides. As far as if you have a high poverty school, are you setting children up for failure and so forth? But I think if you look at what this board did in our redistricting, and since the redistricting has taken place, the three main schools that I would give as examples would be Snipes, Freeman, and Sunset, which would be high socioeconomic, low socioeconomic, high poverty schools. Every year has seen an increase in test scores, making AYP. Test results are up in those schools because we have put additional funds, quite a bit extra money in those schools.
Mr. Higgins?
There has never ever been a good study which shows that busing has worked to counter low performance. It's understandable how people whose children attend poorly functioning schools want their children to be bused to a better school. They understand education is their only way out of poverty, and I agree with them. But the real answer is to improve the schools close to their home. And why is that? Well, there are so many advantages to neighborhood schools. I personally, as a parent, believe in parent involvement. I know that parent involvement is one of the greatest predictors of educational success. And having children close to the home allows the parents to participate in the schools, allows the children to participate in sports, keeps the children off buses several times a day. And frankly, I disagree with the whole concept of busing to achieve socioeconomic diversity.
Mr. Higgins?
When I first ran for the Board of Education in 1994, I ran on a platform to eliminate cross-busing. At that point in time, it was cross-busing for racial purposes. Now we talk about cross-busing for economic purposes. I have the same argument that I put forth at that time, and that is that we need to address the needs of children where they're at. Putting a child on a bus and simply thinking that because a poor child sits next to a wealthier child, somehow that's going to make that child a better child or give them a better education. What we have to do is we have to focus programs to these children. If you look at the children's zone up in Harlem, the Harlem's Kids Zone, Dr. Canada in that, or Canada up there, what he did was he addressed programs to the needs of the children. And that's what we can do in neighborhood schools.
Ms. Hughley? Okay.
I would love it if every child could walk to school. I love the idea of being near your school. However, I think the issue is much bigger than how you get to school or even the slight difference in time that it takes. The bigger question is, are we providing equal opportunity for all our children to learn in the best way possible? The world is very small. I know people now who are working all over the world. The success of all of our children will depend on, to a large degree, about whether we are willing and able to relate to all kinds of people. Of course, I've been working in schools for a long time. I have seen that when you have groups of children who are very similar and their answers to open questions are all very similar, they don't think very much.
Mr. Rhodes?
In a perfect world, I would support neighborhood schools. As Ms. Hoogerly said, I don't know why anyone would be opposed to a youngster being able to walk to school or ride his bus to school, ride his bike to school. But you asked a question specifically about New Hanover County. New Hanover County is shaped like a slice of pizza, and it's not possible to have neighborhood schools in New Hanover County without overcrowding. The example that you used with Parsley. Parsley has trailers all over the landscape there to maintain that concept. Just this week, last week, mind you, we had a request to move trailers into Bellamy Elementary because they were holding classes in the media center in the library. I don't think that serves anyone well. I think a student learns better when they're in a permanent classroom that was built for that purpose. So we have to look at the landscape in which we have and provide a quality education for all students. Mr. Higgins mentioned about the Harlem Children's Zone.
Mr. Stein?
Actually, we didn't quite get around to, with the bus, we still have busing despite the programs they came up with next year. A lot of the downtown kids are bused quite far. I spent most of my career outside the United States, most of my life outside the United States. My work in the United States has been with the same thing, with every kind of culture, religion, ethnic group. We are seriously depriving our middle-class kids of the experience of having interaction with other races and other socioeconomic classes by separating them. They benefit from being in mixed schools. We know that kids from the lower socioeconomic class also benefit from being in mixed schools. The tests show that they do better when they're in a mixed environment. And therefore, it's to the benefit of all that we ensure good mixed schools.
Mr. Thompson?
I think busing is a red herring. In New Hanover County, 95% of the kids are bused. I think the issue here is this board is being elected as New Hanover County School Board, which is a community of a whole. And research shows us that schools should reflect the economic profile of the community in which they reside. Research, 20, 30 years of research shows that children that are grouped together in poverty, if they're more than 50% poverty, there's a 24% chance that they're going to be a failing school. So why in the world would a school board design a school system where some schools have 95% poverty and 92% poverty? That destines those children to fail. On a larger sense, this is a moral and civil rights issue. As Phil was saying, children learn from each other, and they're going to learn to navigate the kind of world that we are entering, a world where we are working with people globally, constantly. And we have to be able to listen to, feel for, and work conveniently and comfortably with people of all backgrounds.
Ms. Kavanaugh?
This is a very clear question and a very clear answer. The 4 Republicans are very strong neighborhood school proponents. The 4 Democrats are all for socioeconomic busing and racial busing. I am opposed to busing for racial reasons and for socioeconomic reasons. The Supreme Court has in fact told us that we cannot bus for racial reasons. I understand wanting people to have a diverse background and diverse experiences. However, the greatest indicator of a student's success is parental involvement. You cannot have parental involvement of children whose parents live in public housing when they go to suburban schools when the bus system does not take those parents to that school. It is best for the children to be able to go to a school near their home.
Time.